About that. Sometimes technology is just not that cool. Welcome back to today's segment. Let's see if this works now. Thanks for tuning back in. Sorry about the issues today. No surprise. Let's get going. Let's get Teal on here. Let's go. Teal Swan, spiritual teacher, author, social media personality, is on today. What's up, sis?
Hi.
Oh, look, you're even like in the teal room.
Yeah, this aqua color is like my favorite color. So, well, I
love it.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, welcome to this little Instagram live session. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here.
How are you feeling? How's it going over there in your world, our world? So many things.
My entire team and myself are stuck overseas. We're one of those, really lucky people who we had an event basically scheduled, 2 of them in a row, landed, and the very next day it was like, well, sorry, not getting home. So it's been really not fun.
I mean, is it sort of a situation where you may be there indefinitely until they open up borders and stuff like that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends that have been sort of either they're stuck in Europe or they're stuck somewhere in South America, or even got friends who are stuck in Australia, actually. But I mean, are you doing all right? Are you hanging in there?
Yeah, I mean, we're fine. And it's just, I've got a pet sitter that's on indefinite pay now because I'm separated from my dogs. That's my nightmare. Yeah, it's not a fun time. I'm in the same boat as you two, where like a lot of the livelihood of my entire intentional community rests on live events. And now it's almost like we don't know whether those are coming back.
Yeah, I mean, that's have you dropped into the seemingly bottomless connectivity experience of Zoom world and classes and such like this?
Yeah, we're actually in the middle of it. They gave me a private offer because I need to be able to do it with like over 1,000 people, which nobody supports so far.
Yeah, how many people can even be on a Zoom call at one time?
I don't know what the limit is, but they literally wrote me and gave me a personal offer to be the first platform to try to do it with over 1,000 people audience, where I have a person on and what I do on stage, because it's not my jam to do these, the online workshops I usually do. It's almost like I'm teaching to the camera and I can't really see that feedback from how what I'm saying is being received by the person, which is so critical for me. So
Right.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for myself as well, it's like the connection we have when we're in and with a live audience is imperative to how I perform and how I connect with people. I've been doing live performances without an audience. I mean, without a live audience, or it's live, but it's virtual, and it's totally different. I feel like I'm just, I mean, I guess it's different for me because I can just sort of zone into, singing a song and whatnot, and I don't have to. It's a different switch to flip, but yeah, I can't imagine it's nearly impossible to really dive in with people in that way, doing it like that.
Yeah, it's not my preference for sure.
But you're doing courses still. I mean, tell us about the courses that you're offering.
Well, I put my nose to the grindstone this last 2 weeks, and I actually already entirely wrote and filmed a new e-course on how to thrive in a crisis. I mean, it's toying around with, like, what am I supposed to teach to? All of the videos that I had slated kind of, it didn't matter anymore. It wasn't like applicable. Like, I don't need to be teaching certain things when the whole like collective consciousness is going through this type of a situation. So I thought, well, dealing with crisis really is what needs to be discussed. And to be completely honest with you, I'm like 5 1,000 times too qualified for that particular course.
So let's dig into it. Where do you begin dealing in crisis? What for you personally has been the avenue of diving in? I mean, we're all sort of at different levels of education in that realm. I mean, how would you begin discussing that?
Well, actually, I would begin quite practically. Like, not at the emotional level yet. I mean, the emotions and how we deal with emotions is a big part of how to deal with crisis, but it boils down to like little things that I feel like people don't really think about. Like, if you realize that you're in a crisis, one of the most important things to do, for example, is to simplify. I mean, like, dramatically simplify, so that you're only focusing on those things which absolutely demand your focus. That means you have to have the capacity in a crisis to drop things, to table them, to back burner them, to take tons and tons of responsibility off, because there's so much pressure on the system. You know, we can look at a person in terms of this internal system that they are. There's so much pressure on the system that you have to take as much off as you possibly can. But like, that's one of those practical steps that most people don't think about. You know, and then they're like, "Why am I having a nervous breakdown?" So that's one of the more like easy, simple steps. Another thing, and I'm watching this big time, so I don't know if you have been following this, but because in a time of crisis, everyone wants comfort, right? So people are going towards comfort foods. I mean, they're flying off the shelves. They cannot keep the shelves, especially in America right now. I haven't looked at the rest of the world, but I assume it's the same because, humans. People want comfort foods. They can't keep them stocked. But in a crisis, you actually have less of wiggle room, less buffer. That's another thing people don't get. They're thinking, oh, I feel like crap, so like I can afford these cookies. Actually, you can afford those in a good time more. So it's like people have to get a lot more careful with the decisions they're making. More careful about how much alcohol, more careful about how much sleep they're getting. Because like I said, again, the system cannot afford extra stressors. You do not have a buffer in a crisis, for example.
Well, so speaking of food, I mean, I know that you are an amazing cook. I've never actually been able to enjoy one of your meals, but every time I see one of your posts about food, I'm just like, that looks delish. Is there like, this might sound like a silly question, but do you have a cookbook?
I have 5 of them. But
really?
See,
this is how far behind I am.
Yeah, I just haven't published them. That's the problem. It's like I'm in this like endless cycle of creating, but then it's down to what's the priority for the team right now. And a cookbook keeps getting tabled. You know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah. Because for me, as far as my anxiety or the pressure, as we're talking about, to be relieved, I don't find it in food necessarily. Like, in fact, it's been interesting during this hunkering down time for me at home. I've actually been eating way healthier than I ever have before, which I didn't really like pair it next to the sort of collective anxiety that I know I also feel. But in my own process of like taking off that pressure, I've just spent more time outside, I guess. I have that luxury to be outside. I live on some land, and I'm able to participate in cultivating it. I know a lot of people don't even have that. A lot of people are locked in like little apartments or in condos, or or even homeless. And so I guess I try to think like, what are some of those things that have been more difficult for me. I guess I often do get caught up in conspiracy, or like, I'm super Aquarian. I'm just like, oh, tell me all the crazy things. Or I get caught up in like, the daily news crap that even with my family, because I have 9 siblings, so like we're always talking, and like everyone's throwing in their stuff, and it's like so much fear and worry, and like I'm the oldest brother too, so like I try to, like, I'll drop in like a little bit of my my like my world knowledge and be like, well, maybe you should consider this, or maybe we shouldn't be thinking about that. But it's a little difficult, you know. So um, it's hard to, you know, because you want to be able to share that truth, that you sort of, that ultimate truth um, of of your process, like how to peel back some of those layers. But I mean, you're very aware that that peeling back layers for people is a whole process in itself. I mean, this crisis alone has shown how deeply wounded the world is.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is there more that you have to add um, to this unfolding that you were talking about?
Unfolding is in more advice for people who are in a crisis.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, clearly there's so much, I don't know, trauma that has not been uh, hasn't been looked at in our lives. I mean, I was thinking about it today. I was like, look at freaking Trump. Like, I was like, I wonder how many years of like of like unresolved trauma, like that, or rather like work that he would have to do to like come back around to like the his soul. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit overwhelming. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, is there what more do you have to share today, like in that sense around um around that around us dealing in our crisis? I mean, is there other things that you can share that?
Oh yeah, tons. But I think the first thing is kind of dovetailing off of what you're saying about this collective trauma is that mankind is about to enter into one of the worst gaslights ever seen.
Hmm.
What I mean
What
by
do you
that
mean?
is that companies, right? And we have to understand the whole economy, and that includes governments, are dependent upon companies right now. And companies are designed to seek out an item of discomfort, right? And to provide the solution. Those solutions, which will be provided to get human beings back into comfort, have the capacity to shove us back into complete lack of awareness again.
Right. Yeah.
So this gaslight that we're about to see here, which is just going to be insane, is you didn't see what you saw.
Mm. Hmm. Right, because he's been doing that to us since the day he took office. I didn't say that. I didn't do that.
So far beyond him too.
Hmm.
Like the human race is about to get hit with every product you can possibly think of to help them go back to the comfort of normalcy again.
And also to protect us from another crisis.
Which is where I'm headed with my next comment.
Mm-hmm.
It really, I mean, the power really rests squarely in the individual to stay in reality when you're getting gaslit. It's damn hard. Because when all of society is saying one thing, and when the companies that are feeding you information, and when news articles are feeding you all this information that says it's okay, everything is awesome, right? It's very hard to keep your wits about you and say, wait a minute, I did see all the cracks within the system. I mean, this situation has made people dramatically aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
And based off of seeing those things, what kind of a world do I want to live in? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also, people will be desperate for relief. I mean, if you want to look at this in a much darker way than we're looking at it right now.
Always. Let's give it to me.
What's being played is a game of uncle. You know that game where they take somebody takes your arm, they twist it behind your back, and you have to cry uncle. Right?
A game of Uncle? Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting to watch what's happening here. Because when you look at, I mean, I go out of body, as you know. I spend a lot of time looking at the collective consciousness of man. And a lot of these organizations, individuals who are really in control right now, are playing a game of uncle with the people that they govern.
Mm.
And it's almost like if we're going to escalate the pain, keep escalating the pain, keep escalating the pain, to the point where people will not be able to cope with it. I mean, there's only so long that you can cope with stuff being shut down, for example.
Mm-hmm.
At which point they cry uncle, and then all of a sudden there's what the gaslight is. There's this instant answer to restore your normalcy again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if we don't have our wits about us, we will jump on that. Just like somebody who gets put in an uncle situation screams uncle.
Mm.
And I need us to be awake to this also, because we're about to walk into a massive conflict with each other as citizens. You know, when we're supposed to be awakening to this time, this Aquarian time, as you talked about it before, where it's all about love and it's about unity, it's about like taking the best interests of others, including the planet. This is what I'm describing, which is that uncle game, is the exact opposite direction of that. It's, if you don't cry uncle and I'm crying uncle, but then they tell me, well, if you don't, I'm screwed. Now you're my enemy.
Mm.
So we're the ones that will keep the separation alive.
Right, because we'll turn against each other.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, because there'll just be mass hysteria. We're going to be all within our own disagreement to the truth.
Well, on a more grassroots level, it's that we're going to be put in a position where my safety depends on your choices.
Mm.
So I do care what you do, and you don't get freedom anymore.
And then there's the other side of it where I'm not going to want you to be responsible for my safety, and therefore I'm going to arm myself or take matters into my own hands. As we know, so many Americans love doing that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what we're walking into here. But I would love to say it's not painful for me, but I find this acutely painful to watch.
So do you think that this is part of the things get worse before they get better? I feel like the psychology of the whole situation is sort of literally going to play out before our eyes, where you can kind of predict sort of the action and reactionary experience. And if we can pull out of that, though, I mean, I've often asked myself, do I actually think there is enough of a collective awareness to, say, move from the worst part of it to the rebuild that I've said to myself, well, I'm sure, as you just mentioned, like, okay, she's shaking her head.
No, and I mean, this is something that I'm sort of treading on ice here, because it's very important for me, for people to feel a sense of empowerment and free will.
Mm-hmm.
But we passed that collective decision point in 2015. It was already done then. 2012 is when this was put on the table, this crossroads. Will people choose awakening in the rebuild, where there's no giant collapse moment. It's just, we're going to change our course and change our business plan and change everything, right? That's already done. Mm. I had a little meltdown about this. I'm late to the game here. All right, everyone else is late to the game here. I'm really, what it was in 2015, I did a few videos. Now I think my candor on those videos will make it a little bit more sense. One of them was the rat cage. Like, if you go back and you watch that video that I did on YouTube, you'll start to feel my emotions. Mm. 2015 is when all 3 life paths for humans, and what I mean by 3 is you've got a plethora of life paths, right? Thousands, millions even. But it's like that those millions of potentials, they collapse down into like 100, and those 100 collapse down into 50, and those 50 collapse down. What you end up with are these 3 main probability paths for humanity, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're somebody like me that's looking at these, if something shows up in 1, you get nervous. If something shows up in 2, you get really nervous, and if something shows up in 3, it's an absolute. And what I mean by that is that unless there's a huge change, I mean massive, I mean just almost unfathomable level of change that's decided. And that happened in 2015 when this potential and what we're headed towards here showed up for humanity. And I was in a very bad mood for a while about it. So no, mankind is not capable of waking up without one of these very painful experiences. So what do I think? I think it's going to get really, really bad. I think it's already getting really, really bad. Mm. And I think it's going to get a lot worse before people really get that they got to get off this train. Mm. And I think that people who are already on the conscious wave are going to be put in a position to decide which side of this ravine they want to be on. Mm-hmm. Do I want to be a person who is taking my eyes off of the system and putting it entirely on that rebuild, or not even a rebuild, what the new society should look like. So all my focus is there, whatever that looks like. You know, sustainable living, intentional communities. We've all known what this is supposed to look like, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or am I meant to be in the trenches with the people who are suffering?
Mm-hmm.
And I think even when I just put that before people, they can kind of innately feel which side they're called for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it draws me into that, like, the future of sort of returning to the old way, where our choice to it just makes me think of like a lot of the old traditional practices uh, of our traditional people here in on Turtle Island, just in that sense of tribalism and you know, small communities and looking out for each other, wherein, you know, it's a little easier for me to witness that in a where I live in the country, you know, with, you know, neighbors that look out for each other, and it's a little more difficult, let's say, in the city where, you know, it's harder to get close to people in a fast-moving environment, um, and yet even in cities like San Francisco or you know, Portland, where I live, or you know, cities all over the country where that I have visited in my time, where people are growing gardens and people have community gardens and in the cities, and where there are programs that bring children into these environments where they are reminding people that growing food is cool, you know, reminding kids that growing food is cool, or like my friends down in San Diego on the Kumeyaay Reservation who are doing this, or in Hawaii at Hip Agriculture, who are bringing in kids and youth and adults and elders to remind them of this idea of community. Because where we're going, as we're talking about this, like this sort of worsening of the climate, whether it's political, the health, or even environment, that sense of community is going to be so imperative to us not falling completely apart.
Oh yeah.
And so I
But
guess
that's what we're about to put on the table.
okay.
Well, this is why, like, really being stable through what's about to happen here is about knowing what your values are. Because even if circumstances change, even if they rip everything away from you, your values are still inside. They can't take those away. It's not possible. So it's about knowing very, 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 very strongly what the hell those are, and where they stack against each other as well. I've been putting a few little riddles out, shall I say, to the people who are watching my videos recently. Putting this idea of values on the table. Because I'll put you in one of the future life paths that we're setting up. And by the way, this is in 2 out of 3 human life paths. What comes out of the situation that we're dealing with right now is the most intensive tracking program you can possibly imagine. Now, health is slated to be the new form of discrimination. And health is declared by who? And by what conditions, right? So when a government is the one that's responsible for setting what the conditions of health are, you see how dangerous this starts getting. Now, all of a sudden, if the government can say to you, I mean, tell me who you love the most. Let's just start there. Like, who? If there's a person in your life, you're like, I can't live with that person. Who's that person?
My mom.
Okay, so what we're approaching is a circumstance in 2 out of 3 human life paths here. What we're approaching is a life path potential here where you will not be allowed to see her unless you meet all these criteria set before you by the government. Now, that means that the value
unless you're deemed healthy.
Yeah. But what if you don't agree with what healthy is?
Right,
what
exactly.
What if healthy is a vaccine, for example?
Right.
That you want to get. Right now, we're being put in a position that creates a juxtaposition between 2 of your top values, does it not? That's freedom versus connection.
Right.
Now, we can
and
get
of course you
philosophical.
make a choice.
I can get philosophical all day with you. We can go around and around the bush about how, you know, it's not really freedom if it's not really connection if you're not free to choose connection, blah, 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 right? But I'm more interested in people coming down to the grassroots experience of this. What will this be like? If you're in a world where they say you either get to see these people or don't based off of you complying. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what I'm wanting people to do right now, is to get very clear on values before they end up in that damn position. You don't want to end up in that position last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't like wake up, I mean right now, like wake up, wait a minute, we're headed in that direction, then it's going to be like, oh, I'm just on vacation. I mean, a lot of people right now, this is what's scaring me the most. There's a real disparity between people who have been dramatically affected by what's happening and people who haven't. You got this person who lost their job and they can't feed their kids today, and this person over here who's like, it's so great to spend so much more time with my fan.
Right.
So like,
and those same people are saying, we're on this together.
Yeah. So it's scary to watch, because it means that a lot of those people don't get where we're headed here. And I do not want people to get into that position where they're suddenly pinched into realizing that that's the choice they're facing today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is something people should be playing out. We should be playing this out in our head. What if I get put in that position? Where do I stand with that? We should be actually aligning with the people we love the most about it as well, you know? There will be some, let's call them freedom fighters, who will have to have a very serious heart-to-heart conversation with their children. This might mean separation. This might mean death. This might mean imprisonment. How do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
It's better if we're all in alignment about a decision that someone's making, if they're part of our family or community, you know?
Right.
But yeah, what's happening today is very serious. It is very, very, very serious. And there's no returning back to normal, as much as they're about to gaslight you that there is normal again.
Right. Yeah, let's get people back to work. Let's get the businesses up and running. Let's get the economy going again. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I wish that people could like get their heads around that. Like, let's just, if we take every conspiracy theory off the table for a second, right? And we're just left with, let's just pretend that this is like a organic mistake type of dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
No government can afford this to ever happen again.
Right.
There's no possible way that there's not going to be changes made to society itself around this exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that means that social distancing is a part of our life now forever, or whether that means that health is the new form of discrimination, or whatever the hell that means. It can't go back.
Mm-hmm.
As painful as it is. And of course, that brings us, this part of why I'm trying to help people through all this crisis stuff, because that puts us in crisis. Like, a crisis always puts us in a position where we're looking at a change we didn't freaking choose. Mm-hmm. Now, even if we chose it, let's pretend we chose it at this higher level. We didn't choose that. You know? Mm-hmm. It's hard for people to get on board with change they didn't choose.
Mm-hmm.
How do you tell a restaurant owner that just lost their business this week? Well, it's change, you know. Wait a minute, I
didn't choose this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, rooting in reality as an essential part of dealing with a crisis.
Yeah, it's time for us to really be thinking about our moral value and what kind of world we're willing to live in, and get real with the reality of our own, the real difference of our own situations per person, and really be thinking about the potential of that worsening in scenario, and have those hard discussions with your family, and have those strategy conversations with loved ones who may or may not be within reach, and consider all the possibilities, because we don't want to be caught off guard in a time like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Or caught in the...
So talking about reality, this is going to help people here, because I'm noticing, especially in the field of awakened people, let's call it people who are more on the consciousness side of the story, I'm watching this interesting thing happen where it's assumed that in a crisis, it's really critical to just think positive.
Mm-hmm.
No. Reality is a two-sided coin, right? Mm-hmm. To be rooted in reality in a crisis means to see both. Mm-hmm. And for one to not negate the other, that's another game that I'm watching people play, right? It's almost like, well, yeah, we're losing our jobs, but the earth feels wonderful. And like, just the way that I just said that is a negation. It basically means that I'm invalidating the negative.
Right, you're canceling one of them out.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with negative to positive. Like, to be in reality, it's not about canceling out either polarity. It's about expanding wide enough to hold both.
Mm-hmm.
So positive. This is making us more aware than ever of how interdependent we actually are. That's a major plus.
Right. Right.
Major negative. People are losing their lives right now. And these measures that we're taking are going to kill more people than what they are trying to prevent. Or are they trying to prevent it? You know?
Mm-hmm. 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 Woo!
What are you thinking?
What am I thinking? Oh man, I'm just digesting because I think even in just that balancing the negative and positive together, it's like it's such a big ask for people who aren't ready for the balance. I mean, we're talking about a ton of people in the world who are like so.
Luxury. You want me to break it to you really, really like hard?
Yeah, always. Let's go.
It's not a luxury to not be ready anymore.
Yeah.
It's not about what I think. I don't know if you've noticed, but the universe doesn't seem to have much patience for readiness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it going to be like, oh wait? I mean, when was the last time you got in a crisis and it was like, wait, I don't think that he can take much more, so we just won't give him much more. No, no, it's like you will wake up. You're going to wake up, even if we have to run you into the wall at 70 miles an hour.
Right. I mean, if you look like the fires in Australia, the massive change in the climate everywhere, the crazy amount of hurricanes all at one time, like the whatever kind of and also meanwhile if you're not in the disaster zone over the last 10 years or however many years you want to talk about, how far back you want to go, we go, oh, let's do some, like in my world, let's do some benefit concerts, let's send some money over, like, and yet meanwhile we're still sort of doing the same shit. So what, it's like, how hard does it have to go on us in order to make us all be fucking ready right now?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh Lord, yeah, it's not a luxury. Awakening is no longer a luxury for the human race. But I mean, if you look at this, I actually consider this a positive. Most people would not consider what I'm about to say a positive, but if we are honest with ourselves, I mean, damn honest, it doesn't matter whether in general we're okay with our lives. Most of us have been suffering. The human race, if you look at it from the outside, is a suffering race. But the things that they it's like they're caught in a hamster wheel. The things that a human does perpetually creates the suffering, but the response to the suffering is just to keep running on the hamster wheel. So that's why I did that, video called The Rat Cage on YouTube. It's like, if that's the loop, at some point the universe takes the rat cage and just goes,
smashes it.
Yeah. We were in hell because of all these practices. And this is my major hope right now. Beyond all of the, real reasons we're in this mess. What we're squarely standing and looking at is this flaws in the system. You cannot ignore them anymore. For example, the fact that a child can't get food anymore because he can't go to school where he got his food from, which is school lunch, and that's his only meal of the day. And this is an industrialized country. Are you fucking kidding me? These kinds of things now should be glaringly obvious to us. So the question is, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to go back to normal? Are we going to get back on the hamster wheel? Are we going to make it even worse for ourselves, which is potential here, like I was saying, with what we choose to comply to here? Or are we going to be like, no, I'm not standing for this anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm putting my money elsewhere. And this is where I feel like there's a lot of room for empowerment here, in that you don't have a hell of a lot of control over other people. And that sucks. Because a lot of people are like, well, what am I supposed to do if like me, what am I supposed to do if Nahko doesn't do that? Or you could be like, well, what should I do if Rachel doesn't do that? That this is where human beings get real stuck in their powerlessness. But the empowerment is in understanding that you're a piece of this pie, right? And if we can get enough people to do certain things, the whole damn pie changes. So I want people to consider right now that every single thing they do is a vote. And I want this to actually change the way that they're watching Netflix when they're in home quarantine right now. Right? Everything you watch is a vote. Everything you put in your mouth is a vote. Every purchase you make is a vote.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of world are we going to live in?
Cast your vote. It's a great
Powerful.
point.
It's ironic because we're in an election year, but right now is when we're voting for the new Earth.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, there it is. Because if you think about the continued numbness people are living in their quarantine right now, whether they're coping with food, as we talked about earlier, or they're coping with just watching random movies, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is the time to start digesting and consuming the new way. And whether that's, you know, if the challenging, like I challenged myself already to be eating differently during this time, and also challenged myself to uh, a number of things that I hadn't either made time for or I didn't have. Well, I guess that's really the thing. I didn't really find them to be that important. They were always back in the back of my mind, like, oh, you should eat better, or you should, you should take care of yourself. You should love yourself more and do these like self-love things and meditate more and do yoga and like, uh, you know, whatever it is. I'd always be like, yeah, for sure, yeah, for sure, yeah, for sure. And then now I'm finding myself just like, which I'm grateful for, is just dropping into it and doing it. But you're making a really great point here, which is that uh, everything we're doing right now, every move we make, every step we make, every step we make, every move you make, I'm watching myself. I'm watching me. Like, like you said, like that's exactly what the damn truth. Everything we do right now is a vote for the new world. And what kind of world are you choosing to make right now?
Yes, and then I want people to think about something because you just brought up a really nice word. That word was coping. Did you notice?
That's pretty good.
Do you know what coping is? Like if I was just to ask you or anybody, like what is coping?
Actively sort of getting by through an experience that is not comfortable.
It's adaptation.
Mm.
To cope is to adapt to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we sit and we think about that it implies that coping is an oppositional force to change itself. Because to adapt to a situation means that situation itself isn't changing, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not changing it.
That scares the crap out of me right now because remember I said we're playing a game of Uncle.
Mm-hmm.
The heat gets turned up and the heat gets turned up. And if we do a good job adapting, then there is no change. So those of us who are like, I want the new Earth, we better not be coping right now.
Right. We need to be actively changing it.
Yeah.
Woo! Boom, baby. I like that. I like that a lot. That's really inspiring for me to hear. I really appreciate you dropping in on that one. That was absolutely necessary. Well, gosh, I really appreciate your time today. It's a really I was so excited to hear just where this conversation would go and also just get those tealisms, those droplets of wisdom, because I think we're nailing you nailed it on the head here for me for sure. And I think I'm hoping a lot of people are just in a good way, because um, it's so important for us to be considering what we're making right now in line with the kind of world that we want to live in, so that we can reclaim and rebuild and do that.
Yes, and guess what? There's more of us. There's more of us than we think. That's something, by the way, that has been quite uplifting for me this last week. Yesterday, especially.
Mm.
You know, people who know me well know that I don't believe in vaccines at all. Mm-hmm. It's one of my hottest button subjects, right? It was interesting because I was on Instagram and I saw this post by Bill Gates, right? And that when I started scrolling through the comments, which I very rarely do, and what I was expecting was a flame war, and for most of it to be on the side of, oh my God, yes, this is awesome. I had hope in humanity when I read those comments, because specifically it showed how many people are awake to what's happening.
Yeah.
So I feel like what happens is so many of us, especially if we're in the consciousness thing, most of us have lived on the fringes forever. I mean, most of us were the family scapegoat, let's just be honest. We're so damn used to not having an army. We're so damn used to not having people on our side. They're like, we don't get it. We don't get how many of us there are. We do not get it. So it's like I would hope to sort of extend this awareness to the rest of the people who are on this call before we end it, which is that there's a lot of us.
Agreed. Yeah, when I scrolled through that as well, I was like, damn, they were going hard, and there was a lot of them that just nailed it on the head, knew exactly what was going on, and I was like, oh wow, just exactly how you felt. It gave me a lot more hope that there and knowledge that there's so many people out there that are not as dumb as like we hope, where at least this level of understanding that is not the way we want to be going is very prominent in that. So yeah, there's a lot of hope out there.
Yes.
So
we created a tribe, right? But this time not Shadow Tribe. I feel like I should do a fist bump, but that's gonna be awkward.
Well, Teal, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and chatting with me and chatting with all of our homies out there today. I look forward to you returning back to your home. I know that will happen soon later, hopefully, and just know that you're in my heart and you're in our prayers, and wishing you and your family good medicine today, as always.
You too.
We'll chat soon. Thank you so much.
Love you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Love you.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate all of you. Give thanks to Teal Swan once again for sharing with us all of her really great knowledge and wisdom. I got a lot from that conversation. I hope all of you did as well. I will be posting this conversation on YouTube as well on my IGTV channel here in the next day or two, and also tune in on Thursday for yet another segment of this Instagram live. I'll be announcing Thursday's guest on Wednesday. Go follow Teal Swan at Teal Swan Official on Instagram. Go check out her YouTube stuff. Drop in, and also, if you haven't seen it, I recommend. This is a different plug, but I recommend watching Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I just watched it. Dr. Stephen Greer, Shoutout. Been a big fan of his for a long time. Maybe we can get him on as a guest. If you guys follow Stephen Greer, I recommend just going over to his Instagram page, Facebook page, Twitter page, commenting, maybe attaching me to those comments. I know a lot of you guys have been posting to Russell Brand and Joe Rogan as well, because I definitely would love to have conversations with them. But it would be awesome to talk to Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, on this channel. So go check out his work. Go watch Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I got a lot more out of that than I got out of watching Out of the Shadows. I'm sure I know a lot of people were sending me that and wanted me to watch that, and I did watch it. But as far as storytelling, it missed a lot of like the rounding out of good storytelling, wherein offering us good knowledge about how we can be moving forward from these kinds of informations. So give thanks. Y'all take care. deeply consider these things that Teal was discussing today. I know I'm going to. I'm going to get back out in the garden, and I'm sending you guys all big love. We will talk soon. Aloha.